Welcome to EduCasts, home of EduCasters. The teacher, the expert authority. In a realist classroom, the teacher has a very specific role. They are not a guide on the side. They are not a co-learner. The teacher is the expert. Think about a college lecture hall. The professor stands at a podium. The students sit in rows. The professor has a PhD in marine biology. The students know nothing about marine biology. Does it make sense for the professor to say, "Well, class, what do you think a shark is?" No. The realist says that is a waste of time. The professor knows the truth. The students do not. The most efficient way to close that gap is for the professor to explain the truth clearly, and for the students to listen, take notes, and memorize it. A realist teacher possesses knowledge. They must really know their stuff. You can't fake it. Transmits knowledge. They use lectures, demonstrations, and textbooks to move information from their brain to the students' brains. Demonstrates reality. In a science lab, the teacher shows the reaction. Watch what happens when I mix these two. They are revealing the laws of nature to the students. Enforces discipline. Because the world is orderly, the classroom must be orderly. You can't learn the periodic table in a chaotic room. The teacher sets the rules, and the students follow them, learning the self-discipline they will need in the real world. The classroom. Order and measurement. What does a realist classroom look like? It looks like a traditional American classroom. Desks in rows. This is the most efficient way to focus attention on the teacher and the board. Textbooks. The textbook is the Bible of the realist classroom. It is the collected, organized, verified knowledge of experts. Tests and quizzes. Realists love assessment. Why? Because if knowledge is objective, we can measure it. If I ask, "How do you feel about the ocean?" I can't grade that. Oh, if I ask, "What is the average salinity of the ocean?" I can mark that right or wrong. Oh, standardization. Realism supports the idea of standards. If biology is true in New York, it's true in California. Therefore, 10th graders in both places should learn the same biology. Religious realism, the Aquinas connection. We have to make a quick detour here because there is a specific flavor of realism that built the entire private Catholic school system. This is scholasticism or religious realism. In the 1200s, Thomas Aquinas merged the scientific realism of Aristotle with the theology of the Church. He argued that God gave us two books, the Bible, faith, and the book of nature, reason. Aquinas believed that since God created the universe, studying the physical world was a way to worship God. Reason and faith could never truly contradict each other because they both come from the same source. This is why Catholic education has always been so heavy on academics, logic, and science. They are realists. They believe there is an objective truth, God, and we use our minds to understand His creation. In these schools, the teacher is an authority not just on facts, but on moral truth as well. The critique. The problem with just facts. Realism built the modern world. It gave us the scientific method, modern medicine, and the engineering that built bridges and rockets. But in education, it gets a lot of criticism, especially from the more modern philosophies we've discussed. The banking model. The Brazilian educator Paulo Freire hated the realist approach. He called it the banking model of education. He said realism treats students like empty bank accounts, where the teacher makes deposits of knowledge. Freire argued this turns students into passive robots. They don't learn to think critically. They just learn to memorize and regurgitate. It kills creativity and agency. 2. Who defines reality? Realists say they are teaching objective facts, but critics argue that facts are always chosen by people. For a long time, history textbooks presented the facts of American expansion, but they often left out the facts of Native American genocide. Was that objective, or was it a biased selection of facts? Critics argue that realism often hides bias behind the mask of neutrality. By claiming to just teach the way things are, it often reinforces the status quo and ignores the voices of marginalized people. 3. Where is the soul? A purely realist education can be dry. It can be cold. If we only study what we can measure, We miss out on the things we can't measure: love, beauty, art, empathy, and the mystery of existence. You can analyze a poem's meter, realism, but can you teach a student to be moved by it? You can teach the biology of sex, realism, but can you teach the complexity of human relationships? Critics say realism produces smart technicians, but often fails to produce wise, compassionate human beings. Realism in the 21st century, the accountability era. Despite the critics, realism is having a massive comeback right now. In fact, it never really left. Whenever you hear politicians talk about accountability, data-driven instruction, or evidence-based practices, you are hearing the language of realism. We live in the era of big data. We want to measure everything. We want to know exactly which schools are failing based on test scores. We want to know which reading program produces the highest yield. This is scientific realism in overdrive. Standardized testing, the SAT, the ACT, state assessments, these are realist tools. They assume there is a set body of knowledge that every student should have, and that we can measure their possession of it with a Scantron sheet. The push for STEM. The massive funding for coding, engineering, and science in schools is a realist priority. We are focused on the subjects that have tangible, real-world economic value. Competency-based learning. This is the idea that you don't move to the next level until you can prove you have mastered the skill. It's not about how you feel, it's about what you can demonstrate. So where does this leave us? Realism is the anchor. Idealism inspires us. Naturalism reminds us we are human. Pragmatism asks us to be useful. Existentialism asks us to wake up. But realism keeps us grounded. Realism is the voice that says, it's great that you are creative, but you still need to know how to read. It's the voice that says, it's wonderful that you have opinions, but are they backed by evidence? It's the voice that says, you are a unique individual, but you live in a world with laws, gravity, and other people, and you need to understand how that works. An excellent educator might not be a pure realist. We know that students have feelings and that imagination matters. But every time we grade a test, every time we correct a spelling error, every time we explain the water cycle, and every time we insist that a student backs up their argument with facts, we are standing on the shoulders of Aristotle. We are honoring the belief that the world is real, that truth matters, and that it is our job to pass that truth on to the next generation.